This is the worst day of my whole life. It began well. Joseph Hannibal left the house this morning, at last. I thought he'd sail away on the evening tide and that'd be the end of him. I was wrong. Billy has gone with him. Even as I write it, I can't believe it. Billy's gone. It was all began just after Joseph Hannibal left. We'd had arguments before, Billy and me, but never like this. It didn't seem a bit sad when I told him at last about Molly and her calf. He just said that I should have been there, or Mother, and it wasn't his fault. I got angry and shouted at him. Billy just shrugged it and walked off. I hate it when he does that. I raced after him and grabbed him. He turned on me and told me that I was taking Father's side against him. I knew then that it was all because of Joseph Hannibal. It's as if he split us apart. Billy thinks that everything is about him is wonderful, and he's doing what a proper man should do. He won't hear a word against him. This afternoon, Billy and Father had their expected set-to about Molly. Father roared, and of course Billy shouted back at him. He wasn't going to stay and be a cowman all his life. He had better things to be doing. I've never seen Billy like it. The angrier he became, the more he seemed to grow. Nose to nose in the kitchen, he was as big as Father. Father said he would strap him if he didn't hold his tongue, and Billy just stared at him and said nothing, his eyes like steel. Mother came between them and Billy stormed out, and I followed him. We went to Rushy Bay, where we always go to talk when we don't want anyone else to hear. We sat on the sand together, and that's when he told me he had been talking to Joseph Hannibal. Joseph Hannibal had asked the skipper of the General Lee, and the skipper had agreed. Billy could join the ship as a cabin boy. "I'm going, Laura," Billy said. "I was just thinking about it last night, and not just because of Father either. It's a big world out there, and I'm going to see it, and this could be my only chance." And I could see that he meant it. That I couldn't argue him round. I tried all the same. I begged him to stay. I even said that I'd go with him. He shook his head and looked away. I know Billy so well, better than he knows me, I think. Once he's made up his mind, there's no stopping him. I knew it was hopeless. He put his arm round me and told me that he was sorry and I'd be all right. He'd write to me. And when he comes back, he's going to bring me back lots of things from America, from China, from the frozen north. When I cried, he hugged me very tight and said he had to go now. Just as he was. He didn't want to have to go home again. "You'll tell Mother," he said. "You'll say goodbye for me." I walked in silence with him down past the church to the quay. I saw Father paring a hedge up by the field where Molly had died. Billy looked at him and said nothing. He was close to tears. He turned away. "And say goodbye to Granny May too," he said. From the quayside we looked across at St. Mary's. We could see the masts of General Lee. "She's a fine ship," he said. "A fast ship. She'll take me all over the world," Joseph Hannibal said. He smoothed my hair and told me to go home without looking back. I cried all the way home, not so much because Billy was gone and I might never see him again, but because he didn't want me to go with him. This evening from the top of Sampson Hill, I watched the General Lee sail out past St. Agnes. Billy was right. She was a fine ship. I knew she would be looking back at Briar, and I knew he would be up on Sampson Hill. I could feel his eyes on me. I shivered. Not from cold, but because I knew then, as I know now, that I'd never see Billy again. Her sails were red in the last of the sun, as red as any blood. I said nothing till just before supper, when Mother asked where Billy was. I told her as gently as I knew how. She sat down, and her eyes were suddenly empty of life. "No," she whispered, and that was all. Father was working late in the boathouse. He came in a few minutes ago. I was sitting on the stairs when she told him. "You drove him away," she said, shaking her head. "You shouldn't have. You shouldn't have." "He'll be back," said Father. "You'll see." Mother turned away from him. She didn't believe him, and neither do I.